We got the Rams taking on the Eagles. It's going to be in the Link stage. So the Eagles are -6.5. Like you said, it's going to be 33 degrees with a chance of snow. A lot different from the atmosphere they played the last time. So these two teams played, but it was in SoFi, in the Dome, in LA before, in all honesty, LA got on fire. So the Eagles dominated that game. They won 37-20. They were up 37-14 at the end of the third quarter. Saquon Barkley, I didn't look into it. I don't know if he broke any records, but he ran for 255 yards. And I think 2 touchdowns. So Saquon was unstoppable that game. But after that point, that's when you saw the Rams really start to get on a roll. I think that's when they beat the Bills. They won a couple tough games against the Jets, against the 49ers. And we know what they did last week against the Vikings, just dominated them, really put the nail in the coffin of Sam Darnold's career in Minnesota. So the Rams are coming in a little bit hot, but Sage, this Eagles team has been dominant all year.
They've been dominant. I mean, you just have to go back and watch that matchup, right? What they do well, the Rams have nothing to protect against. You're going to have AJ Brown. You're going to have Devontae Smith on the outside versus those young Rams corners. They can eat. You got Dallas Goedert. You got that line. You got Saquon Barkley. As I mentioned, it's going to be snowing or raining. It's going to be terrible weather. Your defense is going to show up. Your run defense is going to show up. For as much as we may or may not like Stafford, he's a dome quarterback. Chase, he's played in 9 rain or snow games in his entire career. 9 of them only. You're going to Philly where they make their living in the cold. In those games, do you want to guess what his record is straight up and then against the spread? 9 games in his career in rain or snow.
I'm going to say straight up he's 3-6.
Straight up he's 1-8.
Oh, shit. Against the spread, 0-9.
Against the spread, 2-7. So it just shows you, man, like it's a real thing, right? You see it with the Dolphins. You see it with these West Coast teams. He was a dome quarterback even at Detroit. When they got to go play in the cold, especially like what we were just talking about, coming off a short week, they played on Monday. They didn't even play in their home stadium. They were in Arizona, then have to go back to LA, camp out, and then go back all the way, fly to Philly. I don't like the way it favors for them. I just think that the weather, the Philly run game, the Philly defense, everything's going to show up. I don't trust Sirianni. I don't trust Hurts, which is so funny because I look at quarterback, I look at coach. Rams have the decided advantage. It's not even close, in my opinion, but what the Eagles have over them is everything else. They just have everything else over them to the point where it's overwhelming. They're going to be able to run the ball. They're going to be able to stop the Rams run, which the Rams are going to want to do. They're going to want to run the ball in that weather, and they're going to be able to get after Stafford. So I just feel like it's a formula for the Eagles. Potential blowout. I just think it's going to be a potential blowout here. I love the Eagles. I love everything about them. Alternate spread, touchdown scores, everything. It's one of those things where it's just like, it just makes too much sense. They dominated them already on the road. Now you got to get them at home in your backyard, in your own conditions. And on top of that, your team's fully healthy for like the 3rd time ever this whole season. Jalen Hurts last week, first game in 4 weeks, warmed up, looked a little rusty. I don't expect him to look that bad.
Looked like shit. I thought he didn't look good.
Yeah.
At all.
I don't expect him to look that bad again. But besides, even with that, they were able to put up 22, dominate that Packers team, and just squeeze the life out of them like they do best. So I'm on the Eagles here, Chase, -6.5. I'd take it if it was -9.5. I was like thinking about that when I took this. I was like, what would it have to be for me to consider the Rams? I was like, if it went over 10, I'd take the Rams. But I love the Eagles here.
So this is going to be a tough weekend for West Coast football fans because we all know the classic narrative, right? West Coast teams come over to the East Coast when it's cold. They can't get it done. All the Rams are going to be bundled up. And what you're going to see is you're going to see this Philly O-line dominate that Rams D-line again. I mean, we brought up Byron Young, Jared Verse. I know that they got some young guys on that D-line. They ran for over 300 yards. Saquon just had 250 of it the last time they played. They're going to be moving this Rams D-line. Sage, Ahkello Witherspoon's their cornerback 1. Right? Yeah. And I think the other
I saw a tweet about him versus AJ Brown in their careers, and it's disgusting how much AJ owns him.
Ahkello Witherspoon's your best cornerback. The other cornerback can't be that great if Ahkello Witherspoon's your number 1. You got AJ Brown. You got Devonta Smith. I'm on the same boat as you where I'm not a true believer in Jalen Hurts. I'm not a true believer in Nick Sirianni. I think that McVay, at his best, could out-scheme Sirianni. But you know what you can out-scheme? Where the O-line gets a push on your D-line 5 yards down the field every single play, and you got to tackle Saquon Barkley. So I think Saquon's going to have a big game. A.J. Brown's going to get open. Devonta's going to get open. You're at home. Sage, the link is probably, we saw it with the 49ers a couple years ago going into Philly. That was a scary atmosphere. I mean, Did you see that fan the last weekend? What he was doing to the Lady Packers fan?
Yeah, that's just ridiculous, though. But you got to respect it.
Did you see what happened to him, by the way?
No.
Lost
his ass
job.
kicked?
He lost his job.
Actually?
Yeah, he lost his job. And I was just looking into some stuff about Philly. Dude, at the old Veterans Stadium, do you know that they actually had an on-site judicial court in jail cells because the Philly fans would get so crazy? They're like, we need to process these guys right now. There's like hundreds of dudes who are getting thrown into jail every home game. Kind of crazy.
But I think it works both ways, where if they fall behind, like say the Rams do what they did against the Vikings, just go down and score, they're going to get a little restless. They're going to get a little uneasy.
But I don't see that at all.
I don't see it either.
What I'm saying is that these Philly fans it's going to be such a tough atmosphere. You're not going to see one Rams fan.
I was just about to make that point.
You're not going to
be no one to harass this week.
Like sometimes when you got like the Steelers or you got the Niners coming in, you got to worry a little bit about some of the opposing fans being in that stadium. You're not going to see that once. Like I said, the Phillies or the Eagles offense is going to be able to move the ball the entire way. When I look at the Rams offense, yes, you got Puka Nacua, you got Cooper Kupp, right? I don't know. I feel like the Eagles have one of the best secondaries in the league. You got our boy Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell, Darius Slay. You got a couple safeties, Reed Blankenship, and is it C.J. Gardner-Johnson?
Yeah, C.J.
Zach Bond, one of the candidates for Defensive Player of the Year. We know that Philly D-line with Jalen Carter is stacked up too. So the Rams aren't going to be able to move the ball. Puka and Cooper Kupp are going to have tough matchups all day. I don't see any way the Eagles don't win by a touchdown. I mean, what is the Rams' realistic route to winning this game?
They're going to have to stop the run. They're just going to have to put together some plan to stop the run. And if it doesn't,
it's going to have to be Jalen Hurts' nightmare game.
Yeah. I don't even think so, dude. He had a nightmare game last week, and what did they do? They just took the ball out of his hands. They just made him run, and they made him hand it off to Saquon. You saw a little Kenneth Gainwell get in there. I honestly think like they're Jalen Hurts nightmare game matchup proof. Like if Stafford has a nightmare game, they lose by 40. Jalen Hurts could go 2 picks, like 100 yards, and they could still win this game by 3. I could 100% see it. So I don't even know what it would take. It would take them putting the ball on the ground, the defense not showing up. It'd have to be outside of Hurts almost. It'd have to be more so like the Rams could just pick apart that defense.
The only team that could beat Philly in Philly, I think, is a team that's explosive. And like a team like the Lions where you could just get hit with a couple plays and they score. Because I feel like the Eagles are going to try to just dominate the time of possession. Yeah. They're going to try to move Saquon. They're not going to have Jalen Hurts be high-flying, throwing deep balls to Devonta Smith. So the only teams that could realistically beat them at the link are teams that could take the top off of that defense, and that's not going to be Matt Stafford in the cold. That's not going to be this Rams offense in the cold. So what does I just don't get the line here. I feel like the line should have been 7.5. Is Vegas just taking into account that a lot of people are going to see how the Rams kick the shit out of the Vikings, and a lot of people are really just going to be riding with the Rams the entire way to make it to the Super Bowl? Because nothing else makes sense to me.
I think it's the McVay factor, how they looked on Monday. It's a lot of things that go into it, how Philly looked. I don't know, man. Like, I just can't get that first game out of my head. They dominated them. They dominated them when they played last year at SoFi as well. So I'm just with the Eagles on this one. I think it's going to be an ass kicking. I really do. I think people are still sleeping on how good this Philly team is.